The following may contain offensive language, adult humor, and or content that some viewers may find offensive. The views and opinions expressed by any one speaker does not explicitly or necessarily reflect or represent those of Mark Radulich or W2M Network. Please listen with caution, or don't listen at all. Welcome back to the Long Road to Ruin, everybody. I am your host, the mandated reporter, and frankly, I'm mortified, Mr. Mark Radulich. And down there is the one and only he, Sean. You're not the originator of the Long Road to Ruin. How do you do, my friendly co-host?
My Mark-shaped friend, I have been on the other end of your tin cannon string for a good long time, and I hope to be here for a good long while more.
It never gets old watching that intro of all of Ben's old artwork.
Never.
Not even a little bit. But we're joined by a newcomer, not to the podcast, but to the Long Road to Ruin. She's finally getting on the road with us. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Mick Wanamaker. How do you do, madam?
Hello, hello. It's a nice evening tonight. It stormed over here last night, so everything's all wet.
It did.
Yeah, the weather is being schizophrenic all over the globe. So, Mick, this is your first Long Road to Ruin, which means you've never seen that intro before, have you?
No, I haven't actually. I noticed that once it started rolling. I was like, huh.
Hey, that guy looks familiar. Hey, wait a minute.
Wait a minute. That's supposed to be that.
How goddamn long have they been doing this?
Sean had long hair and I had light in my eyes. That's how long.
He looks like a joyful cartoon character.
I do still have two N7 hoodies though.
Nice.
Ooh.
What'd you think of the artwork there, Mick?
I liked it. I thought it was really cute. It was almost comic booky, in my opinion.
That would be Benjamin J. Cologne, who is Epic Benjamin, all the things. He was actually just on our Superman review on Monday. That's all his original artwork. I own a couple of pieces, the X years ago for a birthday or Christmas gift, one of the two. Bought some of the pieces off of Ben. My prized possession, it's not in the show open, but it's my favorite piece of artwork he's ever done. It's me, Sean, Robert, Melissa, Lily, and Jonas as characters from the Dark Knight trilogy.
Nice.
I, of course, am Bane, because I was born in the darkness, Batman. Yeah. And I am holding Jonas, who is Baby Bane.
Oh, yeah. I'm not surprised. I was like, my next question was, what was Jonas?
Baby Bane.
Yeah.
Melissa and Lily were Catwoman and Baby Catwoman. I believe you were the Joker.
I'm pretty sure I was the Joker, and I had a standing request to Ben that however he drew me, I wanted him to somehow incorporate that N7 logo.
Yes, that was in every single piece of artwork.
And he got me good for my birthday one year because we were reviewing the original Mighty Ducks trilogy.
Yes,
and Ben comes up with this artwork where. My team at the time was back when Arizona had a team, ride or die Arizona Coyotes fan. And so he dresses me in a goddamn Anaheim Ducks jersey and draws Mark and has me just as Mark mocking me and holding a Coyotes jersey. So he had to get one over on me at some point.
That's in the opener. I love that. I love that picture. Anyway, tonight, folks, on the Long Road to Ruin, we are, because there is a new movie coming out this Friday, a requel a soft reboot, hard cam, whatever you want to call it. There's a new I Know What You Did Last Summer movie coming out this Friday, so in celebration of that, we are on the long road to ruin talking about the franchise that is, was, and always will be the I Know What You Did Last Summer trilogy. A saga which begins not as a product of 90s slasher revivalism, but as a 1973 young adult suspense novel by Lois Duncan. Originally published by Little Brown, it was a gripping teen thriller that explored guilt, secrecy, and consequence after a hit-and-run accident. There was no masked killer, no hook, no bloodbath even. It was psychological, an emotional reckoning. When it was released in paperback during the late 90s, the tie-in edition sold over 500,000 copies, riding the wave of interest sparked by its far more violent adaptation. The film, released in October of 1997, was born in the shadow of Scream, another product of the long road to ruin that Sean and I did in our early years. The horror genre had been reinvigorated. Audiences suddenly wanted slick, self-aware teen horror again. Eric Fay, then a development exec at Mandalay Entertainment, secured the right to Duncan's novel and hired screenwriter Kevin Williamson, you monster, to rework the source material into something far bloodier. Duncan, who had lost a daughter to real-life violence, was appalled by what the book became, a slasher film with a silent killer and a body count. Never sign your books over to be option people. But Williamson and Columbia Pictures weren't chasing Duncan's original tone. They were chasing a market. Director Jim Gillespie was hired, and principal photography began in the spring of 1997 in North Carolina. The coastal setting became part of a mood, foggy, blue-tinted, and vaguely gothic. The cast was young, hot, and immediately iconic. Jennifer Love Hewitt, Sarah Michelle Gellar, Ryan Felipe, and, by God, Freddie Prinze Jr. Columbia leaned hard into Williamson's brand, even trying to market the film as far from the creator of Scream, until Miramax threatened legal action, like you do. No matter, the hype was real, the timing was perfect. The result was a stripped-down, classical slasher film with just enough polish to feel new. No irony, no winking at the camera, just tension, mood, and a hook-wielding killer and a slicker. And it worked. The film opened at number 1 and stayed there for 3 weeks. It grossed $125 million worldwide on a $17 million budget and turned Mandalay into a legitimate player in the horror space for a cup of coffee. More importantly, it helped cement the idea that teen horror was bankable again, that you didn't need a franchise or a supernatural twist, just a great hook, literally and figuratively. With success came pressure. A sequel was greenlit almost immediately, like you do. I Still Know What You Did Last Summer hit theaters just 13 months later. Same producers, same leads, new setting. A resort in the Bahamas, and a new writer, Trey Calloway, replacing Williamson. The sequel went bigger in every way. More kills, more twists, more budget, more dinosaurs. But what it lacked...
More dinosaurs!
More dinosaurs! Sing about it. But what it lacked...
Cinema needs more dinosaurs. You get the more dinosaurs, and voila, lobster.
The fog was gone, dear hearts. The dread was gone. What remained was a shiny, shallow echo of the original. It made decent money, but audiences could feel the difference. The surprise was over. The formula was showing. By the time 2006 rolled around, the franchise had been dormant for nearly a decade. Then came I'll Always Know What You Did Last Summer, my love. A direct-to-video soft reboot with a new cast, a new location, and none of the original actors. It was Mandalay cashing in on name recognition and nothing more. The kills were generic, the production was cheap, and the emotional stakes that anchored the first film were completely gone. It didn't kill the franchise, it just buried it. And yet somehow, by God, the story endures. In 2021, Amazon Prime took a swing at reviving it as a series. The reception was mixed, and if you turn into last night's podcast with me and Alexis, you can hear us drag it over the coals and beat it to death. But the fact that it existed at all says something. This IP still holds power. So much so that in 2025, Sony Pictures greenlit a legacy sequel. Jennifer Love Hewitt and Freddie Prinze Jr. returned. A new generation joined them. And just like that, I Know What You Did Last Summer has become relevant again. Maybe not because the story demanded it, but because the culture still had room for it. So why does I Know What You Did Last Summer still matter? Why return to it at all, let alone 3 times in one night? Because it's a tangled journey from YA novel to slasher franchise to rebooted legacy IP. You can trace the evolution of an entire corner of the film industry. The original film is more than just a knockoff riding Scream's coattails. It's the moment when studios realized that horror could be clean, marketable, and sexy again. That it didn't have to be grimy or underground. It could star faces from TV. It could have a soundtrack. It could make real money. And in the hands of Mandalay, a studio hungry for credibility and commercial success, it became a case study in how fast the gears could turn when opportunity struck. But the further you go into this trilogy, the clearer the cost that speed becomes. The second film, glossier, louder, and bigger, reveals how quickly a trend calcifies into formula. It's not a terrible movie, but it's one that doesn't breathe. It replicates its predecessor's shape without rediscovering its soul, and then, by the time you reach the third entry, oy vey, that formula has collapsed into a direct-to-video shrug, a name without a legacy and a concept without a context. And yet, as we conclude our introduction to tonight's podcast, people remember. The imagery sticks, the hook, the slickers, the scream of, "What are you waiting for?" Sorry. "What are you waiting for?" All of it survived the death of the franchise because at least once it struck a nerve. That's why a studio like Sony is willing to bring it back nearly 30 years later. That's why Jennifer Love Hewitt and Freddie Prinze Jr. can walk on the set in 2025 and still carry weight. Because I Know What You Did Last Summer doesn't just belong into the late 90s. It represents something about the era's fear, its cynicism, and its innocence all wrapped into one. It's a time capsule, yes, but it's also a warning about what happens when storytelling gives way to marketing, when success becomes expectation, and when the industry forgets that what people loved wasn't the trend, it was the tension. So tonight, my loves, we go back not out of nostalgia, but out of curiosity to see how the story has changed, to see how we changed, and maybe to remember why we even ever cared what someone knew last summer. Sean Comer, let's get into I Know What You Did Last Summer, blah, blah, blah.
So what you're really saying, Mark, about all this is the memory remains.
The memory remains. Yes, sir. Well said. Did you see this when it first came out?
Pardon me?
Did you see I Know What You Did Last Summer when it first came out?
Actually, let me start by saying that it's kind of fitting that we're doing Long Road to Ruin tonight, because this was the first podcast you and I came up with together, of all the ones that we've been doing for all these years. And I really came into this one, much as I have been personally lately, coming from a very fresh personal place and wanting to start kind of reinventing and rebuilding myself again. And I decided to start by approaching this podcast in a little bit of an old school way. I decided to actually really try taking some notes and getting some thoughts in order so I can be a little less off the cuff. And so a couple things to point out right off the bat is that, number one, the thing a lot of people get wrong is this isn't necessarily a Scream knockoff, because according to what I found in my research, this was written and pitched years before by Kevin Williamson. It was rejected. Scream blew up. Someone discovered this discarded script in their pile and went hat in hand back to Williamson to see if he wanted to give it another go. And of course, you're spot on that Lois Duncan, when it came out, absolutely disowned it. And I'm going to tell you straight up, that is her right. Absolutely nobody has any right to judge her for that or how she feels about this, because no one else but her is going to be coming at it from that very tragic perspective of seeing something that at one point was a labor of love, one of the great successes of her life and her career. And now she's seeing it inexorably tied to the kind of violence that was also the author of her life's greatest loss. It's impossible to judge her for that, and I refuse to. Having said all that, I think the biggest missing piece that led to this becoming sort of the canary in the coal mine that the slasher revival was on its last legs was quite simply the fact that Kevin Williamson had nothing to do with the franchise after the first movie. Because what he brings to that movie, what he brings to every movie that he's done, what he brought to Dawson's Creek, you can even go clear to Teaching Mrs. Tingle, which I know is nobody's favorite. But he brings a straightforward snappiness that never devolves too hard into self-aware snark and kicking at the fourth wall too much. I know that Scream is a movie where, yes, the pantheon of slasher movies and horror movies exists. Of course it does. But at the same time, you also won't find too many Whedon-esque, well, that just happened moments. Or trying to really lampshade the absurdity of the whole scenario. It very much plays it fairly straight with its homages, or at least as much as it's possible to. And I think the nice thing about I Know What You Did Last Summer is it's layered with a ton of themes that Duncan, I don't think, intended necessarily for the original, or at least intended to maybe not be so overt, but I found it to be much more metaphorical, much more symbolic. There's certainly themes of crossing that Rubicon past which you can never really go back to a whole era in your life, because it's over no matter how much you may cling to it, no matter how bitter that may be, and kind of how brutal sometimes, I mean, metaphorically, or in this case, literally, that transition could be. When Ann and I were watching it, I think we had to kind of smirk a little bit at the fact that chronologically, given when this came out, the kids in this would have absolutely been Dare kids. And so, would this be a cautionary tale? Would this be one for the classroom? Just something about that, and kind of the obviousness of Barry in particular just kind of made us kind of smirk at it just a little bit. But as you're going along, one of the things I love about it is the fact that we've seen a lot of horror movies with brutal killers, sadistic killers, inventive killers. I don't think we've seen too many that played with their food quite like the Fisherman did here.
Yeah.
In the sense that for each one of his eventual victims or would-be victims, he found very particular cerebral ways to torment them. You look at Barry, the traditional meathead. And credit to Ryan Phillippe, who is one of the all-time underrated actors of his generation, in my opinion, and always feels like someone who should have gotten his flowers far sooner and in far greater supply than he eventually did. But he's a meathead with an athletic future that seems to have a rocket strapped to his back. So what does the killer decide to do? Not kill him, but physically incapacitate him. Diminish, at least decimate his control over his life that he takes so very much pride in. You look at Helen, the fallen beauty queen, who is watching her dreams crumble inside, but nobody else is really aware of it. Nobody else is really aware of what kind of fire is going out and what she feels she's missing out on. So it's just kind of a quiet death by 1,000 cuts every day for her. And so what does the killer do? Leave her alive, but butcher her hair. Taint the one thing she would have left, and that's her beauty. You would certainly have that argument, I think, even with Max, now that I think about it. What did Max want more than anything else? He just wanted to be in Julie's back pocket. Or back seat. Well, settle for the trunk. Really, I don't know that we ever really get to see anything like that for Julie or... I'm sorry, what is Freddie's character's name? I'm blanking. I knew I was going to blank on one character, and it's his.
Freddie Prinze Jr. plays Ray.
Mm.
Ray, that's it. We don't really get to see anything anything really so cerebral, specifically directed at them. In a way, at least with Julie's, it might be a little bit harder to decipher. But what I find really interesting about her as a final girl, and I've seen arguments that perhaps Sarah Michelle Gellar and Helen would have been the better fit. I don't know that I agree, because what Jennifer brings to that role that so few do in slasher movies is that her acting in anything she's in is always so effortless, always so natural. There's just not a forced note. Even the famous line that gets memed, the "What are you waiting for?" That was just something that somebody dared her to do for a take. And Williamson grudgingly, I think he initially didn't want to include it because he didn't like the improv, but grudgingly it tested so well that he's like, fine, stays in. God damn it. But here you have a young lady who seemingly did everything right, followed all the rules, and still came out definitely on the losing end. She didn't really win anything. She didn't get ahead for that. She just kind of survived. That's sort of all she has to really settle for. And you kind of mentioned that cynicism of the 90s. That's very key to that, because that was felt throughout those of us who grew up then. This growing realization of, wait a second, we've been playing by the rules you told us to, and it's only gotten us suffering. It hasn't gotten us anywhere. Almost like they're designed for circumstances that just don't exist anymore. But just generally speaking, just nothing is kind of as anyone expected. Nothing like what they wanted. Nothing like what they planned on. And that kind of plays out kind of an allegory throughout. It's why I always say I love smart horror. I love horror that feels like it has a little bit of soul, and this feels like it absolutely has a soul and just the makings of a perfect storm for a horror movie. You've got a cast of, and here I'll try to wrap this up a little bit, Ryan Phillippe, Freddie Prinze Jr., Sarah Michelle Gellar, and Jennifer Love Hewitt, all of them starting to hit their prime. Especially for their demographic. You've got an immensely gifted screenwriter who can tell just kind of a nice, tight, suspenseful story, still with plenty of twists and turns to spare, and just leave you wanting more at the end. You've got Kevin Williamson. You've got a movie that's hitting at just the right time, right on the back of the movie that deconstructed the whole subgenre, and then lovingly put it back together in for a new generation. Scream. There was kind of almost no way this wasn't going to work, but don't think that's in any means saying that the craft wasn't brilliant, because it proves that you don't necessarily have to be original. Because keep in mind, we're talking about, as is kind of pointed out in the movie, a take on an urban legend that became a suspense novel that became a movie. It's iteration more than anything else, and this iteration just couldn't have been more perfect.
Mick, what did you think of this movie? I know you came on here specifically to talk about, I know what you did last summer.
Well, actually, I hadn't seen these movies before. It was always like something that like I've been meaning to watch. So once I heard that y'all are doing it, it gave me an excuse to sit down and watch them, especially with the possibility of maybe watching the new one. So, because I've been having a lot of free time. But anyway, I agree with Sean in the fact that this movie has everything.
I'm sorry if that got long-winded. I'm so sorry.
You're good. It has everything it needs as like a nice wrapped up horror movie. And I'm only talking about the first one because that's what we're talking about right now. Because I think it could have stayed just one. Just one. That's
in a
all.
perfect world.
It should have.
That's all. Because it was perfect. It was you had your cliffhanger and like all the drama was happening. You played a little Who's Who game going on throughout the whole thing until the end, and you get the nice twist.
Keep going.
So I don't know. I wonder if they planned on a sequel, but now that I know that it's a different writer, I don't think they planned on it. I also didn't know it was book. So that was interesting to find out as well. And it sucks to hear that they took it in a totally different direction that didn't deserve to happen.
There's always the danger of optioning your book. Is once the movie has it, they can just rip the front cover off and shove it on a script that had nothing to do with it.
Ask Alan Moore.
Alan, I disavow this project more. Yes, keep going, Mick.
I was gonna say, kind of like how people have the whole like the Shining debate thing.
Yes.
So I'm not very good at learning actors' names. So as I was watching this, though, it really surprised me as soon as I saw, and now I know her name is Jennifer Love Hewitt because now I have the cast in front of me. But I was like, it's the chick from 911, and she's always a great actress. Like in the drama shows that I've seen a little bit of Ghost Whisperer, but it was crazy seeing her so young.
Mm-hmm.
So
this is peak Jennifer Love Hewitt. This is so. You were not of this world when Party of Five was dominating the airwaves. Nev Campbell, Jennifer Love Hewitt, just a cast of
Wolf.
Yeah, just a cast of hot teenagers lighting up the airwaves. And
yeah,
then,
basically.
Then I think most of that cast graduated into feature. So I know what you did last summer was Jennifer Love Hewitt's like big step into the big time.
It was crazy.
Well, and of course, I mean, whose back was Scream held on?
Yeah, Nev Campbell.
Nev Campbell.
Right. Keep going, Mick.
And then the other actor that I immediately clocked was the guy who plays Leonard in Big Bang Theory.
Johnny Galecki.
Oh, Johnny Galecki.
I had no idea he was in this. I was like,
that's
Leonard.
He almost felt like he wasn't distinguishing the character enough, and I was like, you still kind of feel like Leonard in a way.
I'm just gonna get this out of the way too. Fuck Anne Heche.
Johnny
May her name be never spoken without that prelude. Fuck
Johnny
Anne Heche.
Johnny Galecki's next movies, I will always be known as Leonard.
I guess my final thought was, other than like that I genuinely enjoyed this first movie, was I don't think I've seen a movie where they use a hook, like a horror movie with a hook, and I wasn't sure about it, but I really like it. I like what you can, the possibilities of what you can do with it.
There's a word in the kink community.
And it still kind of retains that phallic sensibility about it, too.
There's a word in the kink community where it's like if you go to Home Depot, pervertibles, where you walk around a Home Depot or like an art supply store and you just find stuff to use in your kinkery. They're called pervertibles. It is the best pervertible. I didn't put the other comments here, but Rob's been kind of live playing. The number of actresses who went from family-friendly TV to horror is shockingly high. Jessica Biel and her icy nipples, Sean, come to mind. That's a shout back out to our Texas Chainsaw Massacre review. Let me get my thoughts here, and then we'll do one last go around, and then we'll move on to the next movie. I said a lot of this on my TikTok, so I will make this really brief. Ryan Philippe gives the best performance of the entire movie. Jennifer Love Hewitt is totes adorbs, and everyone remembers her for, I think she's giving an earnest performance, but Ryan Philippe actually stretches. I think he stretches. I think he has range. He's the most interesting. He gives the most interesting performance of all the cast members. Freddie Prinze Jr., I am told, is a great voice actor. Thank God, because he sucks in this movie. Holy cow! Some of those performances, I know Miles Teller is our good friend Robert Winfrey's high bar on dead-eyed actors, but oh boy, Freddie Prinze Jr., there was nothing behind those eyes. I'm not sure he knew what language he was speaking. Jennifer Love Hewitt is, like I said, totes adorbs in this, and she is a cute young thing, and she is definitely the one of the poster girls for the male gaze. Holy cow. There's more of this in the second movie, but I'm going to call it out here. You go out of your way to keep her as scantily dressed as possible and then have her run from the monster. In situations where she would have been wearing more clothing normally. It is like purposefully, like I don't use the male gaze thing much, but for me, it's when you're going out of your way to make sure the girl looks, skimpy and sexy in a situation that doesn't naturally call for it. It's my criticism. I'm throwing it out there. People can either take it or leave it. I like the concept of the movie. I like that you have bright-eyed, bushy-tailed dreamers that are ready to take a big step into a bright future, and then tragedy strikes, and they don't know what to do with it. They are they are scrambling for ideas. They are trying to make the best of the situation. There's a moral ambiguity with you know decent people, we're led to believe, that I think permeates this movie, and that's what makes it interesting. And that they make a bad choice, sure. Is it a choice other people would make? Probably not. And I think that's the other side of this, is that this is a movie not only just about a one man's revenge, but about the consequences of bad decisions made under duress, which is why they're in any way sympathetic. Uh, the last thing I'm going to say is, and I said this back years and years and years ago when we talked about Scream. I don't love my monsters being supernatural. That's why when they initially did it, I like the idea of the two killers, because you could play with the supernaturalness without it actually being supernatural. The fisherman's fine, and I like Sean's thing about playing with his food, because there were a couple times I'm watching this, I'm just like, this is highly unnecessary. Just kill him already. Be done with this. But no, who am I to shit on a man's art? If he was like, oh no, everything must be performance art. Fine, I agree with you, Fisherman. Towards the end, where they're like hitting him with hooks and he's able to get back up again, I'm like, get the fuck out of here. Like, there are some things that he does where I'm like, who are you, Jason Voorhees? But I understand that's also kind of the horror trope of everyone has fucking Sabu and ECW fucking. There's your token wrestling reference, Mick.
Did we not watch Behind the Mask: The Rise of Leslie Vernon at some point? I could have sworn we did.
No, I just like these guys. They make them so impervious to pain until they need them not to be, that it's hard for me not to laugh at. It's not enough for me to not like the movie. Actually, very much. This is the one movie of all of these that I've watched so far, including the series, that I've actually genuinely liked. Like, I would say this is, as far as horror movies go, for me personally, probably top 10. The rest of this horseshit franchise needs to be in the dustbin of cultural history. Sean, I'm going to give you the last word here. Actually, one last thing. Johnny Galecki is so, like, creepy in this movie. Dude, when he's talking to them and he's in the truck, I was convinced he was the killer. I'm like, he's going to end up being the killer. Like, there's a couple of things that he does, and I'm just like, was the action here, like, would be like, could you see if you could evoke pervert vibes? Could you just be like Uncle Touchy? That's your character. You're Uncle Touchy, but you're the same age as them, and you're not going to touch anybody. And it's like, whoa. Like, I genuinely like Johnny Galecki, but good God, he is super creepy in this movie. Again, last word to you, Sean, and then we'll move on to I Still Know What You Did Last Summer.
Okay. Amazingly, I would actually cite this up there among what I would call almost perfect horror movies.
Mm-hmm.
Because, number one, you really don't have too many throwaway characters. No one I would say, feels really especially exaggerated. To an extent, I know, technology being what it is, it even has a certain very timeless feel rather than being especially dated. Like, it's a movie that you could enjoy now as probably as much as someone enjoyed 30 years ago. The characters are all designed to make you feel something about them. You might love them, you might pity them, you might root them, you might hate them, you might be suspicious of them. But in almost any given scene, there's nobody focused on that's really meant to be inherently meaningless. It's an extremely tight story. 90 minutes goes by and you really hardly feel it. And yet you look at it and you just think to yourself, there's nothing here to cut. Nothing. It's so lean, but everything means something. Everything progresses especially well. Yes, the kills aren't necessarily what I would call theatrical. It's something that the second movie onward absolutely gets very fucking wrong. They're meant to be as simple and brutal and personal as they are, because they're meant to be simple, brutal, and personal from that character's perspective. About the only flat thing I could cite about, even the score. the incidental music is mostly pretty nice, although neither myself nor Anne were big fans of that droning, gothy sounding cover of Summer Breeze.
Oh,
Whatever
fuck
the
you.
that was.
Hang on. Now that
Come
you mentioned it,
on.
I was in the kitchen cooking bacon. And because the beans don't burn on the grill is what I'm trying to tell you. And I was in the kitchen, right? And I hear typo negatives. That's who that was. And you
That was typo negative. Okay.
Yeah.
typo negative, and you do not besmirch the good goddamn name of Pete Steele. May he rest in peace. God bless his soul. I'm in
He's
the
trying
kitchen.
to have sex with you through the sound.
That's right.
If you would let...
God damn it, he wrote Black Number 1 while he was on the toilet. Sean, he was on the toilet at the time.
Are you okay?
No.
Because I was about to ask, did Typo Negative also do that cover of Hey Bulldog that I liked later on in the movie? Because I liked that one. I just didn't like the cover of Summer Breeze.
Oh, you hurt me.
Have you never heard that before?
That particular version? No.
Yeah.
That's like one of
I
the
had.
more
I
famous
never.
songs,
I never
actually.
heard that. I dug
Like,
it.
Those people who know who Typo Negative are, they know them mostly because of 3 songs, all from the same album. By the way, as we go into this later on, you have a second to Google something. Google the album. I'm going to tell them. I'm going to tell them because you know. Google the cover of Typo Negative, "Bloody Kisses."
Yes.
They know 3 songs by Typo Negative.
Oh, hang on. Let's go to Spotify and do it.
Christian Woman, Black Number 1, She Dies in Black, and Summer Breeze, which is the Seals and Crofts cover. Typo Negative, one of my favorite bands of all time. So back to the story. I'm in the kitchen, right? I'm in the kitchen, and I got the movie playing, and I'm just like, look, some hot people are going to run around and get killed by a fisherman with a hook. It's fine. I don't need to be paying that close attention. And then I hear Summer Breeze makes me feel fine, blowing through the jasmine in my mind. And I come running. I mean, it's only around the corner, but I went through the fucking wall. And I sat down and I was like, Pete, come back to me, Pete.
I am still learning about metal. I am a punk guy, okay? Metal is not my wheelhouse, but I'm trying here.
There are like 4 or 5 Typo Negative albums, and don't go to bed till you listen. You haven't. I know what you did last summer, Sean, and you were hurt by a woman like you've never been hurt before, and because of that, you need to hear "I Know You're Fucking Someone Else" all 12 minutes.
Yep.
All right. Anyway, you're lambasting of droning Pete Steele.
Anyway.
My heart. Continue.
I should have worn that shirt today. I didn't think about it.
There we go.
Holy shit, you fucking drama queen. I was meaning to say I mostly liked the incidental music, and I really loved the score because it never overpowers, and it always complements whatever's on screen. Too often I watch a movie and it's just someone's Spotify playlist. It was like their made for driving list or something. This one actually felt intentional from start to finish. And much like Mick, and I'll let this be the last word so I can throw to her because I'm sure she's got something to say about it. I actually think that ending sets this up for this not to be a franchise, but more like a short story. Once it's done, it's done. It's ambiguous because then you can entertain yourself wondering whatever you think or hope. Did you hope it was a dream sequence? Are you hoping that maybe the killer somehow survived and caught up to her after all and really fulfilled the urban legend? Oh my God, you might actually have to have an original fucking thought. All right, Make sure you stretch and hydrate, motherfucker.
Moving on to the next, we have to move on to the next movie because I want to be done by 10:15. I still know what you did last summer. I'm going to go to you first, Mick, because I've said my piece on this on TikTok, so I will give a brief over of that. But I want to hear from you because you've been so patient for the last 40 minutes listening to these two men mansplain this movie, this series to you. What did you think of these ridiculous sequel that retained Jennifer Love Hewitt and Freddie Prinze Jr. and the original killer, but added Mekhi Phifer and I think Brandy? So what did you think of the sequel?
So the beginning kind of cracked me up, and which kind of started my thought of like they really weren't planning on doing any more movies. Is with the dream sequence in the last movie, which we think is real, or maybe it's not, and then having a dream sequence starting the second movie, it's like, oh, it was a dream all along. Moving on, and then starting with whatever's happening. I was hesitant throughout the whole thing. Like, it was okay. I don't know why they had to drag everyone to the Bahamas.
Because the rule is you must change the location and make it exotic. That is the rule of sequels.
It just didn't make sense.
Beetlejuice goes Hawaiian.
It'd be even funnier if it was in Hawaii, I think. But
that's where the series takes place, in Oahu, in Hawaii.
Also, Jack Black, I have to announce his existence there because that was hilarious.
Yeah, I did a double take. I was like, that's a young Jack Black. Oh my.
I really had it, like, I couldn't tell if it was him or not. Or I was like, maybe it's just someone who looks like him. As soon as he started talking.
Oh,
I watch these on Amazon on my computer while I'm working, and I have breaks during the day, so it has the X-ray thing. You can just mouse over it and tell you who's in the scene. I've done that quite a bit, and I was like, oh my god, that's really Jack Black.
I will say, so the character Will, who is kind of like this awkward, supposed to be love interest, turns daddy's boy towards the end.
Sure.
He doesn't seem to have chemistry with any one of them. I guess with the ending, that could excuse that, but like, he doesn't seem to fit in the movie, in my opinion. He
does not seem like somebody that would have been invited along on this trip.
No, like he didn't seem like he was really like friends with them. Like, but he was supposed to be already friends with the what's the chick's name? I had it written down. No, I don't.
Jennifer Love Hewitt?
No, the black girl.
Oh, Brandy.
Yeah, Brandy. So he was supposed to be friends with her and her boyfriend, or sex buddy, or whatever that was. But he didn't seem like he fit in any of that. So, like I said, I don't know if that was kind of like you could excuse that with how it ends, but I feel like they could have done that better. I also had the thought like that Ben Willis is turning into Jason Voorhees. There was an out loud thought that like, is this happening? I guess it made me think about the no body, no death rule in movies. So if there's not a body, then they can bring back whoever they want, or not follow that rule at all. Doesn't matter, because we'll figure out in this third one how that doesn't matter.
Yeah, we will. Oy.
But I don't know. I just don't have a lot to say about this because it wasn't my favorite. It was fine. The tanning bed thing reminded me of Final Destination.
I was having the same vibe.
But I guess the only last thing I could think of that I wrote down in my notes is the music at the end reminded me of Halloween.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't really have a lot to say about this.
This movie sucks. Couple
it
things.
Does.
One, you either have to have a cast of unlikable people who you want to see murdered, except for the final girl, or they have to be likable and you have to be regretful that they died. And other than Mekhi Phifer, who I think your mileage may vary on how likable or unlikable he is, people might have liked him just fine. I hate his character. He seems to be a fine enough actor. He was doing what he was told, and I'm not going to lay that at the actor's feet. Again, he at least shows passion and range, unlike Freddie Prinze Jr., who, he's did not getting any better with this movie. But he's playing, he's playing the horny dirtbag, of which there's one in every one of these movies, and he's doing his part as well as one can. Honestly, there was more sexual tension between him and Jennifer Love Hewitt than was with him and Brandy. There was a couple of times I thought he was going to give her the Bobby Brown treatment. Oh my God. And I was there. Had it turned into that, I would have been there for, like, had this been more, like Whitney and Bobby than it was I Know What You Did Last Summer, I'd have been really into this movie, but that's not where it's The
If
misdirection.
you'd only given him more domestic violence.
Yes. The whole twist with this movie that this was a setup by the dad's son and by the fisherman's son and the fisherman. I mean, this is so. I made the more dinosaurs joke earlier. That's a long running joke that Sean and I had from the Jurassic Park review we did years ago about how they don't really they don't really add anything to the sequel. They just add more of the gimmick, and there's always an unnecessary twist. They always have to there's always has to be more bodies, bigger body count. There always has to be some
Fast and the Furious.
Yeah, there's always has to be like some ridiculous twist in here that doesn't really fit. And this movie has all those things. It was like they went down a list of dumb things you should do in a sequel that'll make your sequel suck, and we're like, let's do them all. I'm like, all right. I don't know why you would do this. This feels noted to death. This feels like Mandalay Bay was like so protective and precious of their one hit that they put a bunch of notes. They put a bunch of notes on the script to try to maximize like crowd appeal, and then it turned out to be a worse product. That said, and I'll pitch it over to Sean. The one misdirection where it might have been the elder crew member who's doing the voodoo. I was like, all right, good try, I guess. But I just kind of rolled my eyes at it. I will give the movie one thing. Like, say one nice thing about this movie, or I'm going to hit you over the head. The kills are the brutality of the kills was amped up just a bit, and I was amused by that. Like, that's the other thing with these movies is that there's not a lot of tension. The first one, yes. The second and third one, not at all. There's no tension at all, but at least the kills are more gruesome. So I kind of was amused by that. Like, I laughed at times.
Yeah.
There's an unintentionally funny quirk about the second one that I don't think it gives it any good credit, but I'll take what I can get. So yeah, I still know what you did last summer seems like I get why they made it. The first one made shit tons of money, and Mandalay Bay is a small studio, so you gotta make a hit. You gotta make more. But I said it before in my intro. In the rush to do this, quality suffered, and you can cover it up with, well, people aren't going to ask a lot of it, and as long as you give them good kills, they'll be happy. Sure, but you're not going to have the kind of money or phenomenon that you had with the first one, with a shoddy, rushed second version. Your thoughts, Sean?
My thoughts are, first off, indulge me as a horror fan a little bit. I believe that the way your killer or your monster kills has to make sense for that killer or monster, not just because that kind of kill happens to test well.
Mm-hmm.
The way that Jigsaw takes apart his victims and dissects their morality as much as their bodies is very unique to Jigsaw, as is the vengeful, personal way that Freddy Krueger attacks the dreams of the children of the parents who murdered him in the first place. Jason Voorhees is absolutely just primal and relentless, like you would expect from somebody who was left for dead and grew up big and lonely and angry in the woods. And so it goes that in the first movie, it made sense that the fisherman killed the way that he did. It felt plausible. It felt believable that he would come up with these heinous acts to make them miserable before he finally took their lives, and that then he would wait for opportunistic moments to do it his way. And that's pretty much exactly what he was. He's not elaborate. He's not gimmicky. He wouldn't settle for something like just locking them in a tanning bed. He would want something that would be downright.
I like when the screen freezes.
That is where this movie.
I was trying to figure out if that was me or you guys.
But it misses something more important, and that's the fact that when Kevin Williamson goes to create something, in this way, he's well-respected creators like, say, Aaron Sorkin, for example, where he might not necessarily write or produce for what's popular or what he thinks is going to test well, but what makes sense to him. And he's got a very clean, economical sense of storytelling. You can even go clear back to his movies like The Faculty or Scream. They share a lot of the same positive traits as what we discovered about I Know What You Did Last Summer. I'm sorry, I've got a Dorito making its way down my throat. And you can tell that that's not in place here, in that Julie no longer feels like his character. Oddly enough, I think that Jennifer Love Hewitt and Neve Campbell approached being a final girl from very different places and with very different executions because they're good at different things. Jennifer has a way about her that no matter what the character, she makes it feel easy. She can be stretching, but she'll find a way possible. It's a kind of grace about her that's very unique. Whereas Neve can have a tension about her that can be just as compelling and just as haunting and is throughout the best of the Scream movies. And you don't really feel that as much with Julie, although God love her, Jennifer Love Hewitt was trying. You don't feel anything whatsoever for Kara or Kendra or something, or Carla. I think Carla was Brandon's character's name. You feel pretty much nothing for her except vaguely amusing sidekick. Mekhi Phifer had not grown into the Mekhi Phifer of 8 Mile or Zack Snyder's Dawn of the Dead, where he can really kind of take a movie on his back. So really nothing there. Will Benson, again, pretty much feel nothing for him except for why would you even be here? The interstitials with Ray making his way cross country with the bum shoulder and popping pills along the way, all they kind of did was just fuck with the pacing. They didn't really accomplish much else. Jack Black absolutely happened. Boy, oh boy.
Boy, was he Jack Black.
For some fucking reason, he happened all over the place, Poochie that he is, and Poochie went back to his home planet and died along the way. Less said about him, and those fucking dreads, the fucking better. Damnedest thing, briefly when I watched in my head, keep in mind, I was high at the time. I got to look at Jennifer Esposito. I went, ain't no fucking way that's Stephanie Beatriz. Ain't no way. So much so that I even looked it up and no. Love Hewitt proves that actors can't always sing, and Brandy kind of proves that no, you maybe shouldn't always assume that singers can act. More of a dice roll than you think, but it's a broken condom child of a movie. It's an absolute accident. It should not be, and it never got any love. And maybe in this one case, it didn't deserve any either. So,
when planning these long road to ruins, there's always a question of, well, which films are you doing? Because some films were theatrical releases, some films are directed DVD. What is your mission statement? And I didn't do enough research on this movie franchise. I just knew there was a new movie coming out. I knew there had been a lot of these, so I was like, we're just doing them, and I'll worry about it when I get there. And I didn't realize, and I might have done this differently, had I known I Will Always Know What You Did Last Summer is a sequel in name only. It does not retain any of the previous characters. It does not retain the previous killer. It moves the setting from North Carolina to Colorado?
Mm-hmm.
I believe Utah? Did I see
That's
Utah?
Colorado. Fishing village that Colorado is, where you have a guy running around with an ice hook and a rain slicker.
Look where Shinpo Miyagi turned up now, the fishing village of Colorado.
Yeah. So Denver, known for its fishing. Anyway,
Strongusaki, no fish.
So I I think doing the theatrical exhibitions probably would have made this a stronger podcast. On the other hand, if you're a completist and you're like, no, you must do them all. Because I'm thinking about like Home Alone. Like we did the Home Alone trilogy, but that third one I think was direct to video. I think they all were direct to video. At some point, we leave the McAllister family entirely, and we are just, it is a new kid with a new set of parents and a new set of crooks, and more Saw-esque traps. That's Home Alone. So here, we're going to talk about it now, but it is barely, and only because it's tangentially attached to this franchise, barely worth talking about. So this group of idiots is talking about in universe what happened in this world with regards to the fishermen and these people, and they decide that a town fair would be a wonderful place to have someone play a practical joke and run around with a hook and try to kill people, but he's not really doing that. It's just a big joke. This wouldn't have ended with him being shot by police on site. Not at all. So anyway, so a kid falls off the roof and all of this, and oh no, we've killed the kid. This is what we did this summer. So it's the following year, and now that's last summer. Ta-da! Anyway, it's the same fucking rhythm. It's just a bad cover. They're all kind of guilty about it, and then the hot blonde gets the note. I know what you did last summer, and I'm gonna murder all of you. Oh, heavens to Murgatroyd. And then it's just, boy, if you thought the characters in the second one were unlikable, who doggy? It was like someone was like, "Can we write more unlikable characters?" Yeah, you can't. Oh, yes, I can. And it's like, this somehow feels like the worst ABC after-school movie you've ever seen. It is so bad. This is like awful dialogue, awful characters, awful actors, and then just a replay of the same beats over and over and over again until finally Lobster. I can't tell you. It's so bad I can't even hate it because it doesn't deserve that level of passion. It is literally like the most cynical cash grab of a movie, not meriting comment. And I was really thinking about this. Like, this movie was so bad, I started thinking about other stuff. But not like, did I leave the iron on? Or let me go check the bacon that I was making while I was in the kitchen listening to Typo Negative like a good American. I was thinking about, like, if I'm Mandalay Bay and I have a nominal hit franchise with I Know What You Did Last Summer, but there were diminishing returns, why would I do this? Why would I? Look, the people at Mandalay Bay could not have been on that many drugs. They had a business to run. Maybe into the ground.
Almost there. You're almost there.
Maybe into the ground, but they were running it, by God. And they had to have known. They had to have known.
You would hope so.
This was garbage. This was shit on a Triscuit. This was terrible. This was a waste of video footage. This is a waste of people's time.
I guess people really thought it was going to make money.
There was no other way to approach this unless it was maybe a color form. It's a little piece of plastic. You put it in an oven, it's a bigger piece of plastic or some shit like that. Or the reverse, I don't remember. It's an egg. It's an egg. You dye it. It's a pretty color now. Paz! That's what I'm talking about. They had to have known. And yet, this thing was made. It was sold. Maybe someone watched it. I don't know.
Almost getting it. You've almost got it.
And then that's when it hit me. The answer is Robert Zacchari. And you're like, who? Mr. Non Sequitur Rattledge? Let me explain. When I was working for Extreme Associates, the porno company that owned Extreme Pro Wrestling, long story, I remember talking to Robert Zacchari, and between sips of Sprite and spits of tobacco, and he said to me, "Come here and sit on my knee while I tell you a tale, young Rattledge." And I said, "All right, you're paying me. I guess I will obey." And he says, "The reason why we're going to make tapes of XPW matches and we're going to put them in stores is because stores, and I've said this before, stores need shit to sell. and they need a lot of different shit to sell. And it really doesn't matter what the quality is. And so, these many years later, that still sticks in my head is, why make this? Because someone will watch it, someone will buy it. People are not always looking for, the sweetest fruit, the freshest fruit, the ripest fruit. They are just looking to be entertained for 90 minutes at a time. And if nothing else, and you don't think too hard about it, and you've smoked the right amount of marijuana, this will entertain you. I have said my piece, and I will now walk into the woods to live deliberately. Sean?
Oh, Jesus Christ. That needs to be your epitaph. I swear to God.
I haven't had a good Long Road to Ruin rant in a while, so.
I feel like you were almost there, but I don't feel like it was anything necessarily that complicated. What it feels like is a movie that someone cranked out in order to hold on to the franchise rights. Because they didn't have any plans for it necessarily, but they didn't want anyone else to get their hands on it and make a dime off of it. So it feels like something they were able to kind of slap the name on, the clock resets, they have the rights for longer, call it a day for another however long the term happens to be. It's what happened with the last couple of Hellraiser sequels, as I recall. They were knowingly horrible movies, but they weren't put out with any intent to necessarily make good ones. They just didn't want anyone else capitalizing on that IP. So it's just kind of treading water is what it is. That being said, when James A. Janice of Dead Meat, a man and film scholar who has probably forgotten more about horror media than I will ever be blessed with knowing, maybe more than Mick will even ever know, calls this the worst movie he has ever seen. My friends, my fellow meaties, y'all know that is covering some ground, because not everything has been Child's Play and the Alien series over there. Every so often, there's a Thanksgiving. I can't tell if this was necessarily knowingly bad or someone making genuine effort. And when it comes to filmmakers, for the most part, I always like to offer the credit of at least they finished a film. They at least got it done. Maybe slightly less so if it's somebody who's making an intentionally bad film because they completely misunderstood the appeal of the room in Mystery Science Theater 3000. Entirely possible. But every so often, someone truly meaning well still manages to make a laughably horrendous movie. And while I want to laugh at those movies, and they may know their movies are probably going to get laughed at the same time, I still have to respect you, like Sam Raimi making Evil Dead before you, got out there with your besties and what resources you could cobble together. Like Robert Rodriguez making El Mariachi, like Kevin Smith making Clerks. And you still put together and released a fully shot, edited, and finished movie for people to actually... Ed Wood made a career out of it. Yes, very true, Robert. I still have to respect that. Just like I have to respect a band that even if I don't like their music, damn it, they still made a full-fledged album. Even if I play a bad video game, somebody still went to the monumental trouble of fully programming, coding, rendering, what have you, a game. That's still someone's finished work. Even if it's bad, at least it's still finished. I'm not sure this should have stayed finished. I'm not sure this shouldn't have abandoned on the equivalent of some cursed doorstep of horror cinema exactly where it belongs. It's a horrible attempt at a retelling. Mark, you made the TikTok earlier about how 2015's Fantastic Four, however you want to stylize it, was quite possibly the worst superhero movie ever made. Well, that at the time was arguably made so they could hold on to the Fantastic Four rights so that Marvel wouldn't scoop them up, which they inevitably did anyway. But, even that felt better than this, and I absolutely hate that. That was Fantastic Four body horror fan fiction, for God's sake. And it was still somehow better than this god awful
I mean, if
half-ass
if
reboot.
Fox had let Josh Trank make the movie he wanted to make, it would have been fine. Would have been. I don't think it would
Very
have been what people
possibly.
wanted, but it wouldn't have been the incoherent mess that it was.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But I mean, this is the weird case where I can't really recommend anything to do with this movie. Don't watch it because it's going to be roughly as bad as that Donnie Darko sequel that nobody asked for. In fact, expect that to be about the same thing because that's what it's going to be. It's going to be a bad retelling. You're not going to be missing anything franchise-wise going into any of the other new media coming out because it's probably not even going to acknowledge it. There's no reason to. You've seen the two movies that really close the holes of the real story. It's like the Halloween franchise. You can just let this one go and nothing of value will be lost if you don't watch Season of the Witch. Except that you didn't watch Season of the Witch was actually a banger of a movie ruined by having the Halloween title slapped on it. But that's for another season. In this case, just God,
check out the on trial we did
100
years ago on Season of the Witch.
It was a good episode.
It was. Mick, I'm going to give you. Mick, you have been just a darling, just a picture of kindness. You have sat through an hour of me and Sean blathering. So I'm going to give you the final word here. You're going to close this out. You're going to take me home, baby doll. And I've never meant those words as much. Hit it.
Yeah, no, this movie was not great. I had this. I had this whole thought I was developing in my notes that was like, oh well, a lot of series and movies and trilogies and whatever attempt doing different characters. As long as the concept is there, you can switch characters out, like Final Destination did, or like Saw kind of.
Tremors kind of did that.
Yeah, there's plenty of examples in that where you can change the characters, but as long as this concept is still there and solid, it can be okay. As soon as Zombie Fisherman came out, I was like, no, I can't. I stopped writing notes. I legitimately have like 3 bullet points on my page.
Kind of went like this. Just like she's just sitting there like, I was like, yeah, and Zombie Fisherman.
I am in.
Basically, and like the only moment I had was when I noticed that the chick from Chicago Med's in it.
Okay.
It's a Tori David. She plays Zoe. She's like the punk one.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
She's the one that looks like Timu Rosaria Dawson.
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay. Like if Rosaria Dawson pulled a portion of herself and it spawned into a human, it would look like that. It's like Rosaria Dawson's mini-me.
I need to get my fanfic notebook.
Well, folks, Rosaria Dawson's mini-me is the phrase that pays here on the Rattling Broadcasting. Like you're done, right, Mick? That's all you had?
Yeah, because honestly, there was nothing to really talk about.
Well, then, as I was saying, this has been the Long Road to Ruin on the I Know What You Did, what you did last summer franchise. Last night, myself and Alexis, because I am a slave to synergy and the schedule, did the I Know What You Did Last Summer show on Amazon. I don't know how. Take a drink every time both of us says they just took a show about a cult in Hawaii and slapped this name on there and said good luck. It is so bad. So we had fun raking that over the coals. Prior to that, on Damn You Hollywood, myself and Robert and Ben Cologne and Alexis Haina reviewed the new Superman movie. And prior to that, this is not Mick's only appearance this week. Mick was on the Metal Hammer of Doom talking Bloodywood. Yes, she was. So that's this week. Saturday, myself and Evan Bevins, good to his mother, some language, will be reviewing the Hercules movie and comparing it to the comic book Hercules. So that's what we'll be doing there. Sunday. Myself and Jesse Starcher will be doing a TV party on Black Mirror Season 7. Monday is the I Know What You Did Last Summer 2025 prequel, sequel on Damn You Hollywood, which, are you coming on for that, Mick? Or that's me and Robert.
If I can, I might be able to go out and see it.
Yeah, it's up to you.
Yeah, you know.
Wednesday is myself, Andrew Graham, David Wright, and Alexis Haina. Boy, I have a lot of TV to watch. The Bear, season 4. Heard it's fantastic. A week from tonight, Sean, you are not done on this road, but we will be taking a left at Albuquerque. We are staying on the long road to ruin, sir, and this is the year we have fun. I don't know if I've mentioned that before. But here on the Rattle Engine Broadcasting Network, we are doing the things we want to do because we want to do them. Yes, sir. And I have had on my wish list for a long time now, longer than I think anyone realizes, have wanted to do the Oceans Trilogy. So when I was making up the schedule and I've decided to, be a benevolent dictator instead of trying to run a democracy because democracy is too slow. Too slow, Mick. It's too slow. The only way to get anything done, as we have learned in this current presidency, is by autocracy. So anyway,
at least I force you to do the things that I want to do.
There you go. So I will be me and Sean will be doing the Oceans Trilogy a week from tonight on the long road to ruin. What do you think about that, Sean?
I have a secret love for good heist movies.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. And Friday night's all right for fights. It's also all right for AI-inspired prompted music. So myself and Jesse Starcher will be doing sessions. Track 10, and this one is Rattlage and Broadcasting Bingo, inspired by We Didn't Start the Fire by Billy Joel. So that'll be fun. All right, Mick, you have paintings and you have portraits and you have portfolios to advertise. Hit it.
Correct. On Facebook, I have an Onyx Cat Creates, and on Instagram, it's onyxcat.creates. But other than that, I haven't been doing much. I just got a job as a painting teacher of sorts, like for parties. So,
hey,
that's fun.
Oh, is that like painting with a twist or something like that?
Kinda, yeah. Like, they don't do the drinking ones, but they do like if it's a corporate bonding experience or whatever, you and your friends, or basically, I just teach people for fun.
Sounds great. Sounds like a fun gig.
Aw.
Yeah.
All right, Sean Comer, where are you twitching and shouting?
All right. Well, I've got some things kind of going in the back burner right now, but you can, of course, find me on Instagram and Threads at the handle you see on screen, Comer Codex. And also, as I've been doing more and more lately, I am going to be streaming actually tonight. Looks like from the clock, it's about 9:15 p.m. Central Time, 11 p.m. Central Time. I'm going to be going live at that address, playing some ranked Overwatch. I've been away for a few days, and it's time to get back to working some rust off my tracer and seeing if I can get Lucio out of gold. So, yeah, please feel free to tune in, like, follow, subscribe, turn the alerts on, do all the things, show all the love. I like feeling loved.
He wants a whole lot of love, ladies and gentlemen. I think you should give it to him.
Whole lot of love.
Hard.
Give me all your loving.
That's right. Rock and roll. Stairway to heaven. Folks, I'm
all your hugs and kisses, too.
All right. For Mick Wanamaker, for Sean Comer, I have to go call my girlfriend and wonder why she skipped out on me like a half an hour early. Be well, be safe, and behave.